cannot talk about ancient Egypt without talking about the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone was found and used to translate what was in the hieroglyphics. We had them in Greek, we had them in ancient hieroglyphics in Greek and the monolithic script. So this was what was found, this was what was used to decipher. So it went through processes.
With a rich history dating as far back as 3000 BC, the Egyptian civilization was not only one of the earliest civilizations in the world's history, Egypt is also one of the longest lasting empires. Most of Egypt's prowess in architecture and art still influence present-day innovations all over the world, as civilizations tend to draw either directly or indirectly from it. And if the new discovery by Tolu Oladimeji is to be believed, it turns out that English, or broken English at worst, was spoken by Egyptian oracles even before the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus.
To buttress my point, I produced a methodology, a method and technique. To buttress this, I didn't just use simple guessing names like that. I produced a methodology and a method which relied on getting the names decoded and verified and validated. There was pronunciation and repronunciation of the words in English. There was contextualization of confirmation. There was association for relative confirmation. There was cross-referencing of persons and people with their history and achievements. There was correlation of names with aliases. We have e.g. so big, never you. Those are names. You change them around, it seems the same thing. We have grammatical confirmation, transformation. We have deciphering, decomposing and recomposing for confirmation of syllables and words and phrases. This was a methodology I developed myself to use to parse or decode the names of the Egyptian kings and queens.
In his research paper titled English, the Language of the Gods, he opined that English was used by ancient Egyptian priests to name their gods and pharaohs and demonstrate that it is all in the pronunciation and context of usage.
Seth was the name of a god, ancient Egyptians. This is associated with disorder, storm, and welfare. What does that sound like to you? Any answer? Please.
Sith.
Yes. Sith as in?
S-E-E-T-H.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. You got the answer. That's it. Sith. Sith as in anger, rage. So you find that all this, yes, rage, anger. So you find that all, what I'm trying to say essentially is that the names of those gods that the ancient Egyptians used were actually English or broken English. This is another example. This is Apis, known as a god to the ancient Egyptians. What does this posture look like to you? And what does this sound like? Thank you very much. It is very simple, very simple and very straightforward. Apis. Exactly. So these are examples of other ones which we can guess, or I could just go ahead and give you the answers to these ones. High cost is high cost, the desert is desert, Osiris is Osiris, Apopis are Apopis. These are a few examples. I don't want to go into asking too much questions. These are the answers to them. High cost is high cost. That was a god they used to name an Egyptian king or queen. The desert was a name they were using to name an Egyptian king or queen. Osiris is one, Apopis is another one. Basically, I'm saying English is the secret code of ancient Egypt. I'm not saying ancient Egyptians spoke English at the time. What I'm saying is that the answer is that ancient Egyptian priests used oracular consultation. It's documented by Egyptians themselves that they used oracular consultation.
It is documented that ancient Egyptians used oracular consultation, which is a way by which practitioners were supposed to be able to channel God's voice. According to Tolu himself, his conviction and obsession with this started a long time ago.
My first interaction with Egypt or Egyptology as a discipline itself was when I was a student at Ife. It left me with the impression that it was worthy of, I left with a hunch, basically, call it spiritual hunch if you like, that this was worthy of further investigation. So by the time I came to London, with the resources available to me, with the tools available to me, I decided to investigate further. And the more I investigated, the more I became convinced that I was onto something. And before I knew it, I produced a 36-page document on the topic, which I dare say is a game changer. I dare say of seismic proportional value. I'll say it adds, it doesn't take away, it adds to history, the corpus of knowledge of history, which I would hope will be taken unbiasedly and fairly.
Beyond the discovery itself is the historical implication of the discovery. And even though the title appears to pay homage to the English language, Western supremacists may not take too kindly to the idea of a Yoruba queen called Tie having reigned in ancient Egypt.
Well, I've always had it in the back of my mind that yes, English, that Egypt, these names, they looked like English. I always had it in the back of my mind. Being an IT researcher afforded me the time to research in my break time and in my time off. Afforded me the time to go and research further. The skills I acquired, research skills. I was in London at the time. I could get books to buy. Did a lot of intensive research. Bought a lot of books. The frenzy. When I felt this was what I was at, in a frenzy, I went to go and buy these books. Did the research. My wife at the time was saying it looked like you were in a different state altogether, like I was in a trance. It was a totally exhilarating experience. Anyway, I did the research, put it in a 6-page paper that just does that. I was excited like everybody else, didn't know what to do with it at the same time, so I thought to come and tell my people, because my people are more receptive to this, in the sense that they understand what oracular constitution is. It is not far from them. Unlike the white man who, you tell him oracular consultation is like, what does that mean to him?
Thankfully, he appears not unaware of the political uproar that may erupt as a result of his discovery and presentation to the world.
Initially, I thought it was just a paper, it would go here, but there's a lot of politics behind this kind of thing, a lot of hidden politics. And people are very, very stubborn, and very, very vehement, and very determined in their ways to frustrate, to do this. I could tell you a different story, but I don't want to tell you, I want to digress on the paper. What I went through in between writing it and now. I don't want to go tell you any of that, because that's personal. I want to focus on the paper and this discovery that I made. The satisfying bit has been, I like a good fight. I don't mind a good fight. If it's a good fight, fine. If it's a fair fight, fine. I don't mind it. I don't like bullies. I don't like the fact that somebody can dictate to my people and say, you belong. Well, meanwhile, that's not the case. So you understand the depths that this makes people think differently about their history, about who they are. That is very, very relevant and very important. And you appreciate that. And I'm hoping that that point is reinforced and pushed through this forum, which is your TV channel. That yes, we are a people, and we are a people of history, of relevant history.
Tolu Oladimeji fervently hopes that his discovery will bring a sort of self-esteem to anyone in diaspora with no sense of self-worth, because they have come to believe history which says that Africans have always been uncivilized and uncultured.
To forget your past is to forget not know your future. It validates your self-confidence, because I know too many people, there are so many lost souls in the diaspora who don't have any sense of identity, because they feel they are not taken seriously, because they don't have a history, they don't have the people that the history. That was said to us a long time ago, for a long period of time, but that's not the case. This gives them a certain degree of self-esteem which is needed, an injection of what I could say African whatever, so that helps them have pride in themselves.
And to this effect, Tolu Oladimeji has made the book downloadable for free on his personal website at toluoladimeji.com.
My main aim now is to push this to the public forum, because there's African Nigerian heritage that's mentioned in this paper, which had been ignored by history altogether. There's a Queen Tai, which I mentioned in the paper, which is first of a twin, which was an Egyptian queen. So that is of relevance to us as Nigerians, and it's very, very important, because it means our educational orientation. what we felt has to change somewhat to what this is. It has to shift. English is the international language is an international language today. If I suggest that the code was meant for us today in English, and English is the language we're most likely to share commonly presently, then there's no wonder the code was meant for everybody in English. The international language of commerce and trade for all nations today. And so we have English on one hand justified, and we have gods on the other hand justified. Put them together, we have English language with the gods. If I'm too fast in saying that, what I tried to say here was this: that you are the gods on one side, and English just happens to be the language we all speak today. That is why the code was made for us today, because the Egyptians were trying to make a point. They use the language that we're most likely to share in common. It doesn't mean that English is favorable or English is special. It just happened that English is the language you're most likely to share or use. That's why they use English.
And that's where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Africans. For coverage of African arts and cultural programs, do contact the producer on Africats at tvcnews.tv. You can also follow us on Twitter at TVC Africans. Till we come your way again next time, it's goodbye.